Ray was just a repairman on Earth. Nothing special, nothing famous. He liked quiet days and simple jobs. He fixed broken parts on old ships and kept to himself. No one ever called him for something big, until that day when a tall alien soldier knocked on his workshop door with eyes like silver glass and skin that shimmered like stone. The alien said one thing: "You are needed," and handed Ray a thin glowing card with strange symbols. It pulsed in his hand, like it had a heartbeat, and before he could ask anything, the alien vanished. The card opened a path. A transport ship landed outside his workshop. The door hissed open, and a voice said, "Welcome. Ray, please step inside." Confused but curious, he grabbed his bag and walked into the sleek dark vessel. It flew without noise, without engine roar, just smooth sky and stars. The windows showed places Ray had never seen: wide black space, glowing stars, and giant rings of dust spinning like dancers in the dark. Soon a large alien cruiser appeared. It was old, very old, shaped like a winged beast, with long arms that reached across the stars. It floated with power and silence. The ship had a name, but Ray could not read it. The symbols were sharp like claws, and bright like fire. He stepped onto the docking bay. Metal beneath his boots felt warm. The air smelled sweet and strange, like fruit and metal mixed. The door closed behind him, and he heard soft laughter, not cruel, not loud, just soft and playful. It echoed down the hall and stopped. Ray turned his head but saw nothing. He walked slowly, tools in hand, eyes sharp. His mission was simple: fix the core, and leave nothing more. The hallways were wide and tall, with walls that seemed to breathe. Lights above him flickered once, then stayed steady again. He reached the main chamber, and the door slid open, smooth and silent. A chair turned around, and a girl was sitting there. Not a child, not fully grown. Her skin was a soft glow, like pale gold, and her hair floated around her, like it had no weight. Her eyes met his, and she smiled. "You came just to fix the ship?" she asked. "Or were you hoping to see me?" To her voice was light, almost a song. Ray looked confused. He shook his head. "No, I came for the core," he said. But she only smiled. "Miriam, she said, "and you are the first human to step on this ship in 5 years. Do you feel lucky, or do you feel scared?" "Neither." Ray said, "I just want to fix the thing and go home." She stood and walked toward him. Her feet made no sound. Her eyes never left his. She leaned close and said, "The core is fine, Ray. It's not broken, but you are here anyway. Do you know why?" He frowned. "Someone called me. Someone sent a request." She laughed again. "No one sent that request. Not from this ship. Maybe the ship sent it on its own. Maybe it wanted company. Maybe I did too." Ray stepped back. He did not like games, but something in her face looked real. Not just teasing, not just a joke. It was like she knew something he did not like. She had waited a long time for someone to arrive before he could speak again. The lights turned red. A voice echoed from above. "Lockdown sequence. Active emergency level 1. Please remain calm." Ray looked at Lorena, who only smiled again. "I guess it does not want you to leave just yet," she said. The door behind him slammed shut. Metal locked tight. Ray ran to the panel and tried to open it. Nothing worked. Lorena leaned against the wall, watching him try everything. She tilted her head and said, "You really want to go so soon? Human, the fun just started." "What is going on?" Ray asked. "Who is controlling the ship?" She walked to the center of the room, placed her hand on a glowing stone, and the ship answered. Her lights changed color. The air grew warmer, softer, like it knew her. She looked at Ray and said, "It listens to me, but not always, not anymore. It's been lonely, and so have I." Ray did not reply. He stared at her eyes that looked too deep, too old for her face. He felt a chill, not fear, not danger, just the sense that something big had begun, and he was not ready for it. The ship had locked him in with a girl who smiled like she knew his thoughts, and eyes that asked silent questions. Then she said with a wink, "What more could you possibly want? Human, you got me, didn't you?" And her laugh echoed down the halls as the ship hummed quietly around them, like it was waiting for what came next. The red light filled the hallway as the heavy doors behind Ray sealed shut. With a loud hiss, the walls glowed like they were alive, as if the ship itself was watching, breathing, thinking. The air grew thicker, colder, like something ancient had awakened. Ray turned quickly, eyes scanning for controls switches, anything to open the door again, but there was nothing, just metal and silence. And the strange voice still echoing in his ears. "Lockdown sequence active. Please remain calm." Lorena stood still near the center of the room, her arms folded, and that same teasing smile on her lips, but her eyes were serious now, calm, but alert, like she had been waiting for this moment for a long time. She tilted her head slightly and said, "Well, it looks like the ship really likes you, human. It does not trap just anyone." Inside, Ray frowned and took a slow step forward. "What is this? Some kind of joke?" he asked. "You told me the core was broken. Was that a lie?" She chuckled. Not mocking, not cruel, just soft and playful. "Maybe a little lie, but only a small one." The core is not broken, it is lonely, and maybe I am too. I asked it to bring someone it picked. Yurei stared at her, not sure if she was serious. Her skin shimmered faintly in the low red light, and her voice echoed just a bit, like it belonged more to the ship than to her. She walked toward him slowly, her steps making no sound. She said, "This ship was built by someone I once trusted, my father, but he is gone now, and the ship listens to me sometimes, but not always, lately. It has been making choices of its own." Ray looked at the walls again. The panels pulsed, like a slow heartbeat. The air felt heavier, and he realized the ship was not just old, it was alive, or something close to it, and it had locked him in here, not to trap him, but to keep him close. He turned back to Lorena, and said, "If this was your plan, you should have told Mesh." Smiled again, and said, "And missed the look on your face when the door slammed shut. Not a chance, besides. You were never really in danger, not yet anyway." That last pod made him pause. "Not yet," he repeated slowly. "What does that mean?" Lorena looked around the room, then walked to a small console and touched it gently. A soft light blinked and a strange map appeared, floating in the air. It showed levels, pathways, energy lines, and something dark, something moving deep below them. She pointed and said, "That is what I meant. Something woke up, something that should have stayed asleep, and now that you are here, it is paying attention again." Ray stared at the dark shape on the map. It was not large, but it moved, and every time it did, the ship blinked. The lights dimmed and the air pulsed like a breath being held. He said, "What is it?" She looked at him, her voice now low and serious. "I do not know, not fully. My father called it a guardian, a defense for the ship, something that would keep me safe, but it became more than that. It learned, it grew, it watched, and when he died, it became silent, until now." Ray stepped back from the map. He did not want to admit it, but he was scared, not of the ship or the strange girl in front of him, but of the idea that something deep and forgotten was waking up, and it had eyes on him. Lorena turned to face him again, her glow softer now, her expression more thoughtful. "You asked why the ship called you, why you were here. The truth is, I asked it to send for someone. Not a warrior, not a hero, just someone real, someone human, someone different, and it brought you." He looked at her, confused, and said, "You do not even know Mesh." Nodded. "True, but the ship does. It listens, it reaches across space, it learns, and when I asked it for someone who would not run, who would listen, who might even laugh, it found you." Ray felt a strange pull in his chest, not fear, not anger, but something else, something like being seen, like being known without speaking. He said, "I just came to fix a machine, and now you are part of something bigger." Lorena replied with a soft smile. She stepped closer, eyes glowing with that same light as before, playful but gentle. She added, "The ship is not just metal and wires, it has feelings too, and maybe it wants you here more than you want to leave." He looked away, unsure what to say, then turned back and asked if I am staying. "What now?" Lorena reached for the wall and touched a hidden panel. Another door slid open, revealing a dark hallway with faint lights pulsing along the floor. She looked at him and said, "Now we see what else woke up, and we do it together." Ray hesitated for just a second, then followed her into the dark hallway as the door closed behind them, and the ship hummed softly, like it was smiling. Ray moved through the quiet halls of the ship with Lorena walking beside him. Her steps were soft, her expression unreadable. The air felt thicker, here cooler and darker, as if the lights themselves were nervous. He noticed symbols on the walls glowing faintly in blue, like whispers frozen in time. Lorena said nothing now, her playful tone gone, her eyes scanning every shadow, every corner, like she expected something to jump out. They reached a part of the ship Ray had not seen on any map, an old hallway with smooth curved walls, and no lights at all, only the glowing floor guiding them forward. Lorena stopped in front of a sealed door. It was taller than the others, and covered in a strange pattern of green and silver lines. The symbols on it pulsed, slow and steady like a heartbeat. Trey asked, "What is this place?" but she did not answer. Instead, she looked down and said softly, "We should not open this. I told you before, you won't like what is inside." But Ray could feel it now. Something was behind that door, something not right, something watching even without eyes, something cold and waiting. His hand moved to the control panel, but Lorena grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. Her voice was sharp now. "I said, do not open." I stared at her, but did not pull back. Something in her face made him pause. Not fear, not anger, but a deep sadness, like she was remembering something old, something heavy. She finally let go of his arm and said, "If you want to see the truth, fine, but I warned." Youth door hissed and opened slow. The inside was dark and silent until the lights flickered on one by one, revealing rows of tall glass pods. Most were shut, glowing faintly, but one near the back was cracked wide open, the glass broken from the Inside, Ray stepped inside slowly. His boots echoed on the floor. He looked at the pods and saw faces. Inside, sleeping aliens frozen in time, their bodies still, but their eyes moving as if dreaming. The cracked pod was empty, but the glass was torn like claws had ripped through it. Lorena walked in behind him, her voice quiet now. This was my father's secret lab. He built things here. Things the others feared, things not even I understood. That one, she pointed to the broken pod. It was never meant to wake up, but it did, and now it is loose. Ray turned to her confused. You mean something escaped? What kind of thing? Lorena stared at the broken pod and said, a mistake. He wanted to ask more, but the lights above them flickered again, this time faster. A low hum filled the air, followed by a soft sound, like something breathing behind the walls. The floor under their feet vibrated slightly, like something was moving far below. We need to go now, Lorena said, and pulled his arm not with force, but urgency. She looked afraid, not for herself, but for him. Ray followed her back through the door, just as it hissed shut behind them. The lights turned red again, and a warning echoed through the hall's movement, detected in lower deck 26. Ray turned to Lorena. What did your father create? She looked down, her voice low. He wanted to protect me, to protect the ship. He made something to guard the core, something that would never sleep, never stop. But it grew and changed. It stopped listening to commands. It started thinking for itself, and when it felt lonely, it started to hate Ray. Felt a chill, not from cold, but from the weight of her words. He looked around the hallway at the blinking lights and shifting walls. Something was watching them, something that had been alone too long. Lorena kept walking faster, now leading him toward the upper decks. The ship is alive in a way, she said, but the thing that escaped it lives too, but not like the ship. Not like you and me. It feeds on attention, on fear. And it knows you are here. Ray wanted to stop, wanted to think, but there was no time. He followed her through twisting paths and rising ramps. Every shadow felt longer now, every sound louder. His breath was heavy, but he said nothing. They reached a small room with old monitors and strange controls. Lorena locked the door behind them and turned to face him, her voice shaking. I never meant for this to happen. I just wanted someone to come, someone to see me, someone real. Ray looked at her confused, but something clicked. The teasing, the smile, the strange way she watched him. She had been waiting. Not just for help, but for someone to feel real to her. Someone not made by the ship, not grown in a pod. You called me here, he said. Not the ship, not your people. You. She nodded and looked away. I didn't think the creature would wake too. I thought it would stay asleep, but now it knows. I found someone. It wants to take that away. Stepped closer. What does it want from me? Lorena looked into his eyes and said in a whisper, everything you are, everything I can never be. It wants to destroy that because it was made to protect me, but it forgot how to love then. The room shook again, and a sound rose from the floor below, a growl that was not a voice. Not a word, just pure hate and hunger, and the lights went dark. Asterisk. The room was dark. No light, no sound, just the heavy air between Ray and Lorena, and the memory of the growl from below. Ray stood still, trying to listen, trying to breathe, but his breath felt stuck, like the room itself was pressing against his chest. Lorena sat near one of the dark monitors, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark, not with fear, but with something else. Something deeper. Ray moved closer and whispered, what does it want from you? Lorena turned her head slowly, her voice calm. It does not want me, Ray. It wants to make me alone again. Ray sat beside her. The hum of the ship slowly returned. Lights flickered once, then stayed dim. The screens turned on one by one, showing empty corridors and cold metal rooms. One screen flashed with static, then showed something moving, not walking, not crawling, but sliding like liquid shadow, with a shape that shifted like smoke. Trying to remember how to be solid, he stared at it, frozen in place, and asked, what is that? Lorena answered, it was made to feel nothing. It was made to obey, but it saw me cry once, and it changed it. Started asking questions. It started to want more. It watched me. It listened to every word I said, every story, every joke, every silence, and now it is jealous of you. Ray felt a knot in his chest. Her voice was soft, like a whisper against the storm, and it felt strange that someone could speak so gently about something so terrifying. He asked, why did you let me come here? Why risk this? She looked at him, and this time no smile, no teasing, only truth. Because I wanted to see if I was still real, if someone could see me not as the daughter of a dead creator, not as a command center, not as a voice in the walls, but as someone alive, someone worth saving. Ray reached out his hand, not sure why, not sure what he was doing, and Lorena looked at it, then placed her hand in his. It felt warm, strong, not fragile, and not cold. She said, I knew the ship would respond to you. I felt it in my dreams. Your name, your face, your sadness. I knew you were broken like me before. Ray could reply. The monitor showed the creature again, closer now, crawling through the power deck, leaving trails of thick black mist. The metal bent where it touched the air, warped like heat, but colder, sharper. It was coming, not fast but steady, like it knew exactly where they were and did not need to rush. Ray stood up. We have to stop it. We have to shut the ship down. Or shook her head. If we shut it down, we trap ourselves. If we run, it follows faster. It learns quickly. It copies fear. He asked, then what do we do? She looked up at him and said, you listen to me, really listen. No distractions, no thoughts of escape, no fear. I need you to hear my voice and hold it in your mind, because that thing it listens to, and if it hears doubt, it gets stronger. Ray nodded and closed his eyes. Her voice started soft, like a melody with no words, a rhythm of old memories and forgotten feelings. She spoke of stars she had never touched, of nights with no one to talk to, of waiting in silent halls, where even the walls felt tired. Her voice carried sorrow, but also hope, the kind that flickers even in endless dark. As she spoke, the room felt warmer, the shadows thinner, and for a moment Ray forgot the danger outside the door. He only saw her sitting in the dim light, eyes glowing with something more than alien, something human, something lonely and brave. Then the wall shook again. Something struck it hard. Once, twice, the sound of metal bending. The screens went black, and the lights blinked out. Ray grabbed her hand. We have to move. She led him through a side door into a narrow tunnel, where lights pulsed red, and the air smelled like burning wires. She said, the core is ahead. If we reach it, we can trap it inside a loop, a memory loop, but it will only work if it chases us there, and it will only chase what it wants. Mostly stopped. You mean? Mesh nodded. Yes, it wants your voice, your fear, your light. He looked into her eyes, then said, if I do this, will you promise me something? She smiled gently. Maybe promise me you will not disappear. After this, her smile widened just a little. I cannot promise that, Ray, but I can promise one thing. Would she leaned closer, her voice soft and close. What more could you possibly want, human? Then she ran, and he followed the red lights, blinking above them, as the creature roared behind them, growing louder, growing closer, hungry for everything they were, everything they could be. The hallway was long, narrow, pulsing with red light and thick heat. As Ray followed Lorena down its winding path, his heart pounded like drums in a storm. Behind them, the sound of the creature grew louder, not like feet, not like steps, but a dragging pull, like something being scraped across broken glass, with no care for the noise it made. Lorena moved fast, her body almost floating, her hair flickering like strands of light, and her glow brighter with each second. Ray kept his eyes ahead, but the sound behind was growing sharp inside his head, like a scream without voice. Something in his gut told him it was not running, it was watching. It was learning the way he moved, the way he breathed, the way he felt fear. It was crawling into his thoughts, like a cold hand sliding down his back, trying to grip something soft. They turned a sharp corner, and the floor shook. The lights above them blinked once, and the paneling beneath their feet cracked slightly, not from weight, but from pressure, like something rising from below. Ray looked at Lorena, and she nodded, her face serious. It found a way into the lower levels. It is trying to reach the main deck through the vent systems. Ray asked, how much time do we have? She stopped beside a large round hatch and placed her hand on the control stone. It glowed in response, but her face stayed still. Maybe 3 minutes, maybe less, but we are close now. This path leads to the heart of the ship. If we make it there, I can try to trap it, but you must stay with me. Do not run, do not break your focus. It will smell your fear, and chase only youth. Hatch opened, and a wave of cold air rolled out. The scent was sharp like burnt oil, and something sweet beneath it, a smell Ray could not name, something ancient, and not meant for humans. They stepped inside, and the hatch closed behind them, the noise now distant like a whisper, still reaching for them, even through thick walls. The corridor ahead was filled with mist, light blue mist, that swirled slowly, and moved like it breathed. Lorena whispered, this is part of the ship that lives. It reacts to emotions, it feels presence, it remembers those who enter, and those who never live. Ray moved carefully every step, careful not to slip, not to speak, not to shake. The air was heavy, his chest tight like a weight was hanging inside him. As they reached the center of the room, the floor beneath them thumped once, then again louder. Then a crack appeared just to the left, and from that crack a black limb reached up, slick and long, with tiny fingers that twitched and stretched toward the ceiling. Lorena grabbed his wrist and pulled him back. Her voice now firm, it is breaking through it. Found a shortcut, we must run. Now Ray turned and ran beside her, his feet hitting the floor hard. The creature now behind them, no longer crawling, no longer slow. It was fast, fast and fluid like black smoke wrapped in muscle. It did not walk, it launched itself forward, bouncing between walls. With each strike, the metal screamed. Ray heard it breathing not from a mouth, but from every part of it, each movement, like a gasp, like wind through a dying forest. The next chamber was wide and empty, except for one tall structure in the center, a spire of light humming. Low Lorena ran to it, and raised both hands, her voice now sharp, in an alien tongue. The spire reacted, spinning faster, and sending waves of energy into the room. Symbols lit up on the walls, in gold lines forming shapes that spun and clicked like puzzle pieces. Ray looked back, and saw the creature pause at the doorway. It did not enter at once. It waited, its body coiled like it was thinking, its many eyes blinking slowly. Then it stepped forward, and the symbols screamed like alarms, shaking the air and burning bright. Lorena shouted, "Ray, now. I need your voice. Say anything. Say what you feel. Say what you want." Ray shouted, "I want this to end. I want it to stop. I want her to live. I want her to be safe." The creature shrieked, a sound that made Ray drop to his knees. Its body shook, its limbs flailed, and the symbols on the walls wrapped around it, like chains of light, pulling it backward, pulling it into the air. It screamed again. This time in pain, this time not angry, but afraid. Lorena kept chanting, her voice louder, her eyes glowing white. The spire surged with light, and the chains thickened. They dragged the creature into the core of the spire, and the chamber sealed with a crash. The sound like thunder underwater. Silence returned. Slowly the light dimmed, the air settled. Lorena fell to her knees, breathing hard, her hands shaking. Ray crawled to her side and held her. She smiled weakly, and said, "You did." Ray asked, "Is it gone?" She looked into his eyes, and whispered, "It is not gone. It is sleeping again, waiting again, but you were the key. It listened to your voice because it was true, because you meant every word then." She leaned into him, closed her eyes, and whispered again so softly, he almost missed it. "What more could you possibly want, human?" The chamber was quiet now, cold, and glowing with soft light. The spire stood still, no longer spinning, no longer alive, just humming low, like the last breath of a fading storm. Lorena sat on the floor with her back against the wall, her eyes half closed, her skin dimmer, her glow soft like dying fire. Ray stayed beside her, watching the walls, watching the corners, watching for signs of movement, but nothing came, no sound, no shadow. Just the long silence between them. He placed his hand on hers and felt how cold it had become, not lifeless, not gone but tired, worn like a candle that burned too long without rest. He said softly, "We made it. You trapped it. You saved the ship." She nodded, barely, her voice thin. "It is only sleeping, Ray. One day it might wake again, and next time it will not play. It will not wait." He looked at her, worried. "You burned yourself to hold it back. Why did you do that? You could have let me go, could have stayed safe, could have saved your strength." She opened her eyes and looked at him, not with sarcasm, not with games, just with truth. "Because I wanted to know if anyone would stay. If I gave them everything, would they run or would they stay? And you stayed. You saw the worst parts of this ship, of me, and you stayed. That is rare. That is more than most ever give." Ray shook his head. "You think this was about what I gave you, but you do not see it was you who gave me something. I have never had you saw me, to not just as a worker, not as someone to use. You talked to me, you laughed, you made me feel like I mattered, like maybe I was not broken after all." She smiled just a little, the kind of smile that means something deep, and she said, "You humans always chase stars, but never stay long enough to see. The night you land and then leave, you listen but forget, you promise but vanish. I was afraid you would do the same, but you stayed, and now I am afraid of what comes next, because I do not want this to end." Ray leaned back against the wall beside her, and stared at the spire, the way it pulsed, now soft like a heartbeat, like something asleep and dreaming. He said, "We do not have to end it, not if we do not want to. We can stay, we can rebuild this place, maybe find others like you, others who feel lost and want someone to stay too." She turned her head and looked at him with something gentle, something fragile, and said, "What if I asked you to stay, not as a hero, not as a guest, just as you, as Ray? Would you stay here in this broken ship with a tired girl and a sleeping monster waiting beneath the floor?" Ray looked at her and smiled, not big, not wide, just real. "If you asked, I would not leave, not because I have nothing back home, but because nothing there ever felt like this. Nothing ever felt like it had meaning, like it mattered. This feels real. This feels like something worth fighting for." She blinked slow, her eyes soft with light, and her fingers gripped his just a little tighter. Then she said, "If I asked, would you rebuild the core with me? Would you make this place a home again? Would you live in a ship that breathes and hums and sometimes cries through the walls?" He nodded. "Yes, I would, because I think we both need that, and maybe others do too. Maybe this ship can become more than a prison, more than a cage. Maybe it can be a place where people find what they lost, and learn how to feel again." Then the floor below them rumbled just once, not danger, not rage, just a reminder that the thing still slept, still dreamed, still remembered them. Lorena said, It knows we won today, it knows we are not afraid now, and maybe that is enough to keep it still for a while. Ray stood up and helped her to her feet. They walked slowly down the hall, side by side, not rushed, not scared. Just calm. The lights above flickered, not with warning, but with warmth. The ship seemed to recognize their footsteps. The way it breathed around them was different, softer, like it accepted their presence, like it wanted them to stay. They reached a window and looked out into the stars, wide and endless, with light bending between planets and silence stretching forever. Lorena said, I always wondered what it felt like to not be alone, not just in space, but in spirit, and now I know, now I see why. You humans fight so hard to protect each other, even when you are scared, even when you are broken. Ray placed his hand on the glass and whispered, I would give you everything to Lorena, not because I owe you, not because I should, but because you make me want to, and that is more powerful than any reason I ever had before. She turned to him, and her eyes glowed. Bright again, not with power, not with energy, but with something pure and steady and true, and she asked softly, If I gave you everything, Ray, would you stand? He said, without pause always. The stars outside the window shimmered like fireflies trapped in frozen time, their soft light glowing across the surface of the ship, and reflecting in Lorena's eyes. She stood close to the glass, her hand pressed lightly against it, as if she could touch the stars, as if they could somehow answer the questions she had never spoken. Ray stood behind her, quiet still, watching her, watching the way her shoulders moved with each breath, the way her glow rose and fell like a tide beneath her skin. The ship was quiet now, not dead, not empty, but alive in a new way. It hummed with peace, with stillness, with something almost like sleep. The hulls no longer shook. The lights no longer blinked, in fear. The darkness in the lower decks no longer whispered threats. The creature was silent, and so were its shadows, not gone, not forgotten, but caged by the one thing it had never expected to face, a bond, a promise, something more human than machinery. Stepped closer and spoke gently, We could leave. Now you know the exit tunnel is open, the outer lock is working again, the way back to my world is clear. Lorena turned her head slowly, her eyes meeting his, her voice soft. You could leave, Ray, you could go back to a life without me, without this ship, without the weight of memories and danger, and long lonely corridors. You could walk into the sun again, and never hear this ship cry through the metal. Ray smiled just a little, not with joy, not with ease, but with the kind of warmth that comes after pain, and said, Maybe I could, but I think I would carry this place with me anyway. I would carry your voice, your eyes, your laugh, even your strange questions. Even if I tried to forget, you would still echo inside. Mesh looked away for a moment, and said, You would be missed by your world. I think someone might wonder where you went, someone might wait for you, someone might cry. Nodded yes, maybe, but I do not think I would be missed in the way I feel here. I do not think I would ever feel this, seen this, known this, needed, and I do not think I would ever want to forget that. Lorena stepped away from the window and walked toward the control panel. Her hand brushed across the surface, and the ship responded. Lights blinked in soft green lines. Paths lit up, one leading to the command bridge, another to the gardens, another to the memory vaults. She touched one, and a new room appeared on the map. One not used, not labeled, just opened. She turned to Ray and said, If you stay, we build from this. Not just patch it, not just repair, but make something new, something good, something living. We let the ship become what it always wanted to be, not a weapon, not a prison, not a cage, but a home. Ray walked to her and took her hand and said, Then we build it together, not as captain and guest, not as human and alien, but as people with nowhere else to go and everything to gain. They walked through the new path, the air warmer than before, the walls breathing soft and slow, the lights golden and quiet. The room they entered was simple, round with open space and high walls, the ceiling curved like a dome with tiny points of light blinking above them. Not stars, not yet, but the memory of stars from when the ship was young and unbroken. Linian looked around and said, This will be our first room, our start, our center, and from here we expand. We add light, we add music, we add laughter, we find others lost like we were, and show them they can belong. Ray looked at her and said, Do you think the ship will allow that? Do you think it trusts us? Now she nodded. I think it trusts you, and because of that, it trusts me. To the creature might sleep, but the ship is awake, more awake than ever, and it wants what we want. It wants to be filled with life, not fear, with warmth, not silence. They stood in the center of the room, and the lights above them grew brighter, the soft hum of the ship rising like a song with no words and no end. The floor beneath them pulsed gently, like a heartbeat, strong and steady. And truly, Lorena turned to him one last time, her eyes glowing like the stars outside, her voice soft but clear. What more could you possibly want? Ray, he looked at her for a long, quiet moment, then said nothing, because in that moment he knew he had already found everything he never knew he needed, and the ship around them seemed to agree, as its lights danced like fire, and its walls breathed like joy, in its voice echoed a single quiet note of peace that would never end.